Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Restitching the Tapestry, episode number 8. It is very mind-boggling to think that we are on episode 8 already. Is right? Like,
No.
it doesn't seem like it's been 8 weeks since we started doing this. So it makes me very happy because it's probably been like the highlight of each week for me. So but we're going to wait here for a minute or so to let some people tune in. So far, it looks like Taylor's here and
Hi,
Igny's
Taylor.
here.
Hi, Igny.
Two of my favorite human beings. Um, so yeah, we're really excited to talk about this topic tonight. And I know many of you probably looked at the topic and you were like, "Oh no, like they're going to talk about the pandemic." But the truth is, I think that the conversation needs to be continuous because we're at a pretty crucial juncture right now, especially in the United States, where and Ari and I were just talking about this, people are being like lulled into this false sense of security. So that's why we are wanting to have this conversation. Before we do this, I'm going to read our show's mission statement and then I'm going to see how Ari's been doing. So, um, many witness different atrocities, large and small, and those often fray the social fabric around us. And much of the time, many feel powerless and know not really how to address such things. So, this fray has gotten worse with the rise of social media because people have been able to share in collective trauma as it goes viral in real time. And of course, this grief is experienced on a massive scale. So, what can we do to mend communities that have seen considerable tragedy, most of which privileged groups have caused, and many who don't acknowledge their own personal involvement? And the show's goal here is to work together to restitch that tapestry so we can understand things better through examining things creatively, through through conversation, through action, and through education. So anyway, um again, welcome. Ari, how have you been doing?
Good. I had a great week. I'm ready for tonight's show. Always look forward to it. Always look forward to talking to you.
Oh, that made my day. Thank you. Okay, so let's talk pandemic related things. So I just looked for at Michigan's current statistics, and so far here in Michigan, we've had almost 76,000 confirmed cases since the pandemic began, and we've had a total of
4 million tested. Four
Mhm.
4 million confirmed cases. 141,000 dead.
And that's like, is that worldwide or is that in the United States?
I believe that's U.S. Oh, yep. 141,000 have died in the U.S.
Okay, so that's an alarmingly large number. And kind of going back to what I was saying earlier, we wanted to talk about this because I've been seeing on across social media, I've been seeing this in conversations I've had with people face to face. A lot of people are being lulled into a false sense of security where they really don't acknowledge the fact that we are still very much in a pandemic. We are still like in the center of it, like arguably, and people are putting themselves in harm way by not heeding policies, by not acknowledging the significance of the professionals who are trying to tell us like, hey, like you should wear a mask, hey, practice social distancing, so on and so forth. So we just want to help continue that conversation and talk about a few subjects related to current events that have been happening in relation to the pandemic. So, Ari, would you like to start us off?
I think that there are a lot of myths involved with the pandemic, and I want to talk about some of the myths tonight. Um, and I think one of the first myths I want to talk about that I was um, concerned about, that I didn't really know about for a while, that I kind of held on to for a long time through June is that we were in a second wave. That when Florida and Texas and California started getting their cases on the rise, that we were hitting a second wave somehow. But that's not true. It's just an extension of the first wave. So we haven't even hit the second wave yet. We're still on the first wave from March. So it's just a singular line that's going up. So we're only on the first wave of this pandemic, and it's only gone up. It hasn't gone down yet. We haven't had it under control at all. So we haven't even gotten it under control enough yet to be considered a second wave at all,
Hmm.
which is disturbing.
Well, I know a lot of different places also, like they were again lulled into that false sense of security because a lot of states started reopening after they noted some, declines in case rates and death rates. But the real question is, was it low enough?
It wasn't,
It
no.
wasn't. The truth is, it wasn't, right? So, but I've seen a lot of these myths circulating around as well. Do you want to go over some of these myths with us and we can kind of like discuss them a bit?
Yep, and we got these myths from Snopes. I definitely hope that you'll go on Snopes because these myths have been circulated by politicians, and some of these have been circulated by the president. Some of them have been circulated by members of Congress or governors, um, but they have been circulated by politicians. So don't trust what politicians have to say. Definitely trust what the CDC has to say. Trust doctors. But Snopes is trying to keep up with all of the myths and the conspiracies. There are a lot. So we are going to go over some of them right now. One of the myths is COVID-19 is not much worse than the flu. And that's something
That's
that's
a
been
very
going
common
on.
one.
But that's not the truth. The fatality rate of the flu is about 4 to 8 times of that of the flu. So that's actually not the case. In the state of Indiana, the death rate, or 2.8% of the population of Indiana has the coronavirus right now. It's actually a Class B misdemeanor to not wear a mask because so many people have the coronavirus,
Mhm.
and that not not as many people have the flu compared to the coronavirus. So it's just a complete fallacy that the coronavirus is less infectious and less dangerous than the flu because more people are dying and it's less under control. At least with the flu, you know, there are ways that we can do to prevent the flu and ways that we can help the flu. Uh, uh, but with the coronavirus, there's no vaccine and there's nothing we can do to help the flu. Uh, I mean, we're trying methods, but we don't even know the co the way it develops. We don't know if you can get reinfected. We don't know. Um, we didn't even know for a while that it was infecting children. We didn't know for a while. We didn't know for until recently that it was causing strokes in people around the age of in their 30s. We realized that it was giving strokes, and that there's a higher risk rate of people around the age of 30. So we don't even know like how it develops or like what comorbidity rates of how it develops and like what it actually does or like how it actually works, or like it
Well, the truth
that's what makes
is,
it so
like,
dangerous.
well, and additionally, like, for most diseases, viruses, they have to be studied for years before, like, vaccines can be created, before treatments can be created. And with the current pandemic, they've been trying to expedite the process, like, in the safest possible way that they can, because you can only expedite it so much, like, or
Right.
else, like, potentially taking a treatment could be dangerous if it's not assessed effectively. So that, like, that's another layer on top of this that a lot of people aren't, considering. And just to look at the comments here really quickly, because I want everybody to know that we are, in fact, looking at the comments. So Taylor says, terrified of the pandemic, cannot believe schools are opening, absolutely terrified. I completely agree. Like, it's been unsettling me too, seeing a lot of the schools reopening despite guidelines. Uh, Igni, let's see, Igni says, I honestly believe we should cease travel across state lines, safe for like transportation of mail, supplies, food, etc., under extremely tight restrictions. I think that would be very wise as well. Going back to earlier in the pandemic when, Michigan experienced its shutdown, when I think Ohio opened up before we did, people were traveling to Ohio to go to like hair salons, so on and so forth. And like it just proves that like that travel does spread it. And now the big question is, like, how would that be monitored? How would that be enforced? Because that, I feel like that would be a pretty distinct question to think of. Lacey's here. Hey, Lacey.
Hi,
Mm,
Lacey.
all right. So, but yeah, that is the first notable and probably most common myth that we see. What are the other ones?
The next one is cases are increasing because testing is increasing. And that's just a myth. Millions of tests conducted and fewer than 10% come back positive. So that's not the case. It's uh, if you're positive, you're positive. If you're negative, you're negative. Testing doesn't change the fact whether you're positive or negative. If you are, you are. If you're not, you're not. Testing isn't going to change the fact whether you are. They're increasing because people are going out in public and not wearing masks and being reckless with their behaviors, not because of testing.
Right. Well, and the truth is, the people that say things like that, and they say it as a means to kind of diffuse or to deflect. It's a form of rhetorical manipulation, because it's mostly coming from politicians.
Right. And you can't blame the means for the reason why people are testing positive. Like, it's like blaming the messenger for the message. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, and it's all like, nobody wants to take accountability, right?
Yeah,
Especially if those are people who are being called out for their inaction. So that's definitely a rhetorical deflection tactic. And we can talk more about this later on, but there's a huge surge in rhetorical manipulation. A lot of people are being misled, and it's scary to see. So, but yeah, so that was the second one, which is definitely one that is seen often as well. So, what's the next one?
lockdowns were unnecessary.
Well,
Um,
that's interesting.
most epidemiologists who study pandemics believe that reaching herd immunity could only be achieved at enormous cost in terms of illness and death. So um, mortality rates would have risen if we had not done this. So I think that lockdowns were pretty much necessary. We really are not trying to build herd immunity by doing lockdowns. It's really about preventing a loss of life and about uh, about preventing death. So it's not about doing herd immunity. That if we sent people out in the world and did this herd immunity, uh, there would be a great loss of life. So if you just send people out on their way to like build the herd immunity, so many people would have to die.
Yeah.
And it's like 60% of the population or something.
Yeah, that I don't even know how to respond to that one.
So it's just it's him. I just I so I think that like we can all agree like maybe not kill off 60% of the population. I think that like preventing that by like having lockdowns.
Yeah. I just, again, that's another one that is intended to be misleading.
Right.
It's intended to twist the actual significance of the decision that was made, you know. But people, of course, they don't often
Oh, it's
consider
not
that.
killed. It's sorry, I'm reading it wrong. It's about 60 to 70% of Americans would have to become infected before the spread of the virus diminished. That would result in about 1 to 2 million US deaths and about 5 to 10 million hospitalizations.
Oh, wow.
But I think it would be higher deaths than 2 million.
Yeah, I completely agree. I completely agree with that. And I think the truth is, the people who make those statements are the people who are really wanting to vilify those who have been making the decision to shut down, shelter in place, so on and so forth. It's again like that type of tactic that's geared toward redirecting and trying to place blame on someone for something. It's like, so instead of like focusing on, solving the problem and doing what we're supposed to do, the whole goal for those people is to blame. And I mean, we see that here in Michigan a lot. Like, I know our governor gets a lot of hate for the decisions that she's made, even though the decisions that she's made has helped Michigan considerably. There is a certain point where our state, we had like the lowest case increases out of almost all the states in the United States for a long chunk of time. I think it was, I mean, that was in like late May, early June, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Something like that. So the comments. Taylor makes an excellent point. The rich only care about populations that make them money, and the rich are in power, right? So they're not going to consider the populations that might be more susceptible, right?
Mhm.
Let's see.
And
Yes, David, that is the one we're talking about. We're just looking at the comments really quickly just to keep up with the conversation.
oh, okay.
So, David says, correct herd community, they estimate would be 60%, but hopefully if a vaccine comes along that's effective, that would be reached in a safer and much more effective and humane way. Yep. Well, and I know that the people that often like use this vilification of the shutdowns as a means to kind of like suggest like, oh, it's herd immunity, or like I think they kind of misinterpret what herd immunity is in of itself. Like they see that word and then they make an assumption of what it is without actually researching it.
Right.
Unfortunately, but we see that a lot right now, especially with all these conspiracy theories that we see on a regular basis that circulate.
Yeah, and I blame social media for conspiracy theories. It's one of the reasons why I got off social media is because I deleted all of my social media. By the way, if you don't know me, I deleted my Facebook, my Twitter account, and my Instagram, so I don't have any social media besides YouTube now. Um, so I'm completely off social media. Actually, Donny only contacts me through my email now. Uh,
It's kind of neat. I like it. It's kind of it's like writing a letter-ish.
yeah, it is. So it's kind of like I sent a bird. I sent a bird today.
But that it's true that like I know some social media platforms are trying to monitor for conspiracy theories and inaccuracies, but they can only do so much. But the truth is social media does empower people to share or disseminate information that could be misleading and do so on a massive scale. And it can and a lot of people, especially people who aren't understanding that, you know, certain things you may read on the internet may not always be reliable, those people will like read whatever they encounter and just assume that it's absolutely true when actually hell no. Let's see.
I have more myths if you want to talk about them.
Yes, please do. I was just reading the comments, sorry.
The virus was probably made in a lab.
That's a myth too. Yeah, that is the
There's
um,
and there was a study produced March 17th that strongly suggests that it was against this theory because it resembles a couple other coronavirus outbreaks or SARS related outbreaks. So,
hmm. Interestingly, David says that um, one thing that's promising is the virus has antigenic drift, which is better as far as viruses go because those viruses do mutate as all do, but they mutate slowly. And David also says that I'm in immunology right now in med school, so I'm a little passionate. That's really cool. Thank you for noting that too.
yeah,
Reliable sources, woo.
I like it.
Reliable sources are refreshing in this time where people are sharing everything that is, you know, unreliable. So let's see. So that was what was the one that you just read? Was it the epidemiological models are always wrong?
No, I'm on a different one. I'm on live science, the live
Oh, okay.
science one now.
Okay, so
Oh,
let's go into
kids can't catch coronavirus. That's a big myth.
so let's
I think
talk about that
I
one.
mentioned that one before.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So have you noticed? Have you been seeing people who've been walking around not wearing they wear masks, but their kids don't wear masks because they don't believe that their kids can get coronavirus?
Oh, yeah, like, I was in a store the other day where the adults were wearing masks, but the kids weren't, and the kids were, like, 10, 11 years old, and, nobody stopped them, like, nobody was, like, enforcing it at the store. So these kids could have been walking around, like, being exposed potentially, which is kind of a scary thought, but, um and I've known that some people have been saying that the reason why they don't want their kids to wear a mask is because, well, we don't want them to be afraid. We don't want them to live in this culture of fear. Like, I get that, but and I'm not a parent, mind you, but if I were a parent, I would rather have my child feel a little bit more cautious than be potentially exposed to something that is this serious, you know?
Well, and have you noticed that like parents let their kids go and play together?
Mhm.
And
Oh,
it's
yeah, like,
like,
people are still, like, meeting up at other people's houses, doing play dates. Like, I saw a friend probably a week ago where, like, they had a graduation party for one of their kids, and at this party, like, 'cause they posted pictures, there were probably over 30 people there. Some people were wearing masks, but it was just a smattering, and additionally, like, the kids were all, like, in a pool together playing, close quarters, playing ball, shoving each other in the pool, so on and so forth.
And it's like, if they have coronavirus, they just gave it to each other.
Exactly. Exactly.
I'm like, kids do give it to each other, and man, it's not unheard of. I don't know how the virus we we don't know how the virus works. Like, how does it work in kids? Does it I mean, I'm not sure exactly how it works, but, like, it just I
Well, and the truth is, like, because Igni made the comment, because for some reason the comments in Streamlabs is not, or
I think
StreamYard
that
is.
yeah, I'm seeing what David's just said, and it's interesting.
Yeah, David said, it's also a sense of civic duty and responsibility, doing things to protect other people. What a good lesson that you can teach kids, but people are failing, some anyway. Igni said, I'm on YouTube looking at the comments because StreamYard is being ridiculous right now. P.S. Can everybody hear us okay also? Like, there aren't any, like, sound issues today, right? Hopefully not. Igni says that children don't particularly react as badly as adults usually, but they're still a vector for the virus to infect and they are still a vector for the virus to infect and spread. Additionally, we've seen reports of children being affected, leading to other types of complications as well. Um, Lacey says 1/3 of the kids in Florida apparently have corona. Ooh, where did you see that? I'm curious. I mean, it would be scary to be a parent in Florida right now if that's the case. Taylor says, my brother is keeping his kids home this year, but my sister is probably sending her son back to school. Yeah, that's scary. And apparently, by the way, our sound is perfect tonight. Excellent.
Good.
I'm just wondering why the chat box is not updating. That's super annoying. Oh, well, at least we have YouTube open. So we can still see your
Oh,
comments, worry not.
do you wanna do you wanna hear another myth?
Heck yeah.
If you have coronavirus, you'll know.
This one is super self-explanatory too.
Because, like, you don't know. Actually, I've been kind of worried about it lately because, like, I've been having a little bit of a cough, and I'm like, I hope it's not coronavirus, but, like, I've been a little concerned about it because I'm, like, not sure if it's just the dryness in my apartment, but I haven't had any other symptoms. So, like, I've been, like, really kinda nervous about leaving my apartment and, like, going out and doing stuff.
You know, it's interesting you mentioned that too, because I've also been a little bit worried because, like, for me, like, I have allergies all year. And my allergies, like, I end up probably getting at least one sinus infection a year. And what worries me is that when I do get a sinus infection, I'm gonna be like, is this COVID-19? Is it a sinus infection? Because in many cases, like, these symptoms overlap one another. And I can, like, I imagine that a lot of people are probably living in fear, right?
Mhm.
Especially if they might have, like, allergy problems, for example. Um, so, like, people don't understand, like, with regard to this myth that a lot of people are asymptomatic. That's how it's spread. Like, it seems to, like, depending on a person's immune system, it seems to affect a lot of people differently. Like, some people have certain symptoms, whereas other people have different symptoms. But that's not to say that they still don't have it, right?
Right.
Oh, Taylor said, I had a dream a couple nights ago that I didn't start showing symptoms until I was in front of class teaching. I literally had a similar dream to that. So I work at two different institutions. One school is online for the fall semester, and the other school is doing face-to-face classes still, but they're doing like this hybrid type of thing. And I'm not gonna lie, like I'm really worried. I'm really
It's
worried.
really scary.
So David says one thing you'll notice with this is high fever. It feels often like the flu, but a lot of people can be asymptomatic, of course. See, that's what frustrates me with sinus infections is like sometimes depending on the severity of the sinus infection, like sometimes they can lead to like a fever, depending on how bad they may get, but they don't always get that way. So like if I do get a sinus infection and I am worried enough, I probably will go get tested just to, have like that peace of mind. So PS, our chat box is updating in Streamlab or StreamYard. I keep calling the Streamlabs StreamYard. And it's very slowly updating. But we're still on YouTube looking at it.
Yeah. I'm looking at it on YouTube. I'm just
David asks, can you ask to teach remotely? I know depending on the discipline being taught, some teachers can teach remotely. For the specific classes I'm teaching developmental writing. They want those taught face to face because those students often need more hands-on assistance, let's just say. Um, honestly, teaching in the fall is going to be like, I mean, we're trying to plan the best we can, but it's gonna take some fancy footwork. It's not gonna be perfect by any means. But are there any other myths?
pets can spread the virus of the new corona, or pets can spread the new coronavirus.
That's actually one that I've not heard.
Or pets can get coronavirus and pets can spread coronavirus, are ones that I've heard.
Wow. Okay. Well,
There
I
have
think
been a few reports of cats and dogs that have become infected with the coronavirus after being in contact with the sick owner. For example, in April, 2 pet cats in New York tested positive for COVID-19, and the owner of one of those cats was confirmed to have COVID-19 before the cat showed symptoms. Even if pets do occasionally become infected, the CDC says there's no evidence that they play a significant role in the spread of the virus.
okay.
So they can get it, they just don't spread it.
Right. Well, and there are many different types of coronavirus too. Like many different types of animals can contract coronavirus, like different types of coronaviruses. Why is this link not working? For some reason, like the link for the Snopes article like stopped working for me. Okay, there we go. It's open again for me.
But I
So
heard about some dogs getting it too, and like, I guess you just have to like want to get your pet tested. Like, not many people are testing their pets,
right.
but like, I think it's just a rare occasion like that your pet's gonna actually like get it.
Yeah. Well, again, if you're concerned, like it's always better to be safe than sorry, you know. So, are there any other ones? Any other myths?
Um, here's a racist one. You can get the coronavirus if you eat at Chinese restaurants in the United States. I've heard that one. That was a really racist one.
Oh my
I
God.
remember all of the Chinese restaurants in my town closed before any of the other restaurants. because they were doing so poorly.
That's so sad. It's like, and definitely a pretty troubling reflection of the social state of our country at the moment.
Mhm.
Yeah. Like, that dumbfounds me entirely.
Uh, there's also one in the same vein that you can't accept packages from China. Uh, you absolutely can accept packages from China. It's ridiculous to say that you can't. It's
Well, the truth is, it's not like, I think a lot of those types of very racist myths are circulating because we have a president, for example, who keeps calling it the China virus and who keeps s- using like derogatory language, like mocking like Asian inflections, calling the virus like just joking about the virus. And unfortunately, people who are easily misled will see that and eat it up. And that's my only, I mean, that's my understanding of why those types of myths seem to circulate. Again, a very sad reflection of the current troubling state that our country is in socially.
Here's another very ignorant one. Drinking bleach or other disinfectants will protect you from coronavirus.
I do remember hearing that one as well. And that all stemmed from like was it a press conference, I think? Our
Yeah, someone said if you drink bleach that it'll help you, and it's like, don't
well,
drink bleach.
there was a press conference where President Trump was having a conversation with reporters and he looked over toward one of the medical professionals and asked like, is there some sort of thing being developed where there can be like an injection like of some sort of disinfectant inside the body to, disinfect, and it was a very oddly worded question. It was extremely, let's
It was
just say,
basically like, can we drink bleach?
essentially, yeah. And it like, and I have a feeling that that's where that one kind of spiraled from. That's my best guess for that.
Oh, my link froze.
Oh no. For
I
some
guess that's
reason
all
it's
we're gonna get.
for some reason it's not showing me all of them. Technology.
Oh, here's one. Here's one. This one's been the spread on social media, and it's a conspiracy theory one. It's the big one. 5G networks can spread the new coronavirus.
Ugh.
The
Sorry.
government installed all those 5G towers. It makes your cell phones run faster, and it also spreads coronavirus. Listen up, guys. This is it.
Wow. Wow. That sounds pretty serious.
No, it's not
It's
true.
not.
And people actually believe this, and they started burning down 5G towers, and Fauci had to go out there and tell them, "No, this isn't true. You have to stop burning down 5G towers. This is ridiculous."
So David in the comments said, new meaning to making 5G go viral.
It's totally fallacy. It's totally ridiculous. Don't believe the 5G conspiracy. It's it's a conspiracy for a reason. Just don't believe it. Like, 5G towers are just cell phone towers.
Well, and
That's
the
all
thing
they are.
is, psychologically, when people don't understand something, especially when a collective group of people don't understand something, their immediate goal is to try to find any means to justify or provide some explanation for what they don't understand, right? And I think that's, I mean, looking back at all of these different conspiracy theories and these misleading things, that's where it all originates. People trying to justify or explain something.
Well, and
And
I think that
due to
they
their fear, they don't understand that, there's a lot more to it. And a lot of it isn't
well, and I
this
think that they
frivolous.
see these 5G towers, and I think that they're, like, unnerving. Because if you look at a 5G tower, it's actually kinda scary to look at.
But I've never seen one. What do they look like?
So it's just like this big long tower, and it has like a lot of like prongs hanging off it, like side panels hanging off it. It looks kind of like unnerving, and it's like at a lot of places, like it's at arenas and it's at a lot of like public spaces. So like
Hmm.
I have one at the my high school at like the track. So they're like in a lot of public spaces where a lot of people go. So like it just seems like there's if there's a conspiracy theory of like you want to get a lot of people sick, you put it in a public space of like where a lot of people go and gather, and like you want to infect people, like that's where you would put it.
Right. Well, and the thing is, like, I remember there were news reports. I think it was some time ago when they first started talking about 5G towers. And I remember the media, they were posing the question, like, oh, are there any like negative health effects of 5G towers, right? And unfortunately, like, of course, on social media, people took that and it just kind of went on this. I mean, people just went on this tangent about it and they focused on that one small question and they just jumped to a conclusion, right? They didn't actually.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I guess it's because like when cell phones first came out, cell phones were really dangerous. Like they could cause like brain cancer. So like it was in the same vein as that. Like when you first had a cell phone, they were giant and they had like these radio waves and they could send like radio waves over your head, and it was like it could cause like cancer. But like it's in that same vein that they were, like, studying it, and, like, maybe 5G towers could send all these radio waves and it could make you sick.
Hmm. Yeah.
But it's just ridiculous. The whole thing's ridiculous. And so people just latched onto the conspiracy theory because all of a sudden a pandemic came out and like all these people got sick, but like it's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. People latched onto it. They created these conspiracy theories. It just went over. It went totally out. It's out of control.
Right. Exactly. David said, I think one thing you have here in American society is the changing and restructuring, and systems are broken. People have been dividing for decades, um, and that builds mistrust in society. I think that's an interesting point that you made because we see this division every day, especially with how people are reacting to this situation, right? And I feel like people have been believing that disproving or disbelieving those who have the knowledge is considered the patriotic thing to do, especially when you have politicians telling you something else entirely, right? So, like, I think that division is a little bit unnerving because a lot of those people aren't open to listening the way we would hope that they would. They're not open to education the way that we would hope that they would be. So, yeah. And he goes on to say people don't understand science and they don't like it. It doesn't give them easy and convenient answers. Easy answers give you a sense of control, and humans hate feeling like they don't have control. That is
Right.
an excellent point.
I agree
Definitely.
with that.
Hmm. And we see that manifesting itself so much right now.
Right. It's like because the pandemic is like this loss of control. So we're just like pulling at straws at like trying to find ways at control. And conspiracy theories are basically like new age mysticism and dark age, the new dark ages of the internet.
Right.
It's like they're gonna shake their stick at the gods and say, "This is what I believe, and nobody's gonna tell me otherwise."
Or I think of that photo that circulates on social media of the guy in a field, like wearing like a white t-shirt. He has like a gun and then the American flag, and he's like hollering at the storm that's coming. Like that's what it makes me think of, because like this is the patriotic thing to do is to disbelieve, so do that at the expense of everyone else, right? There does seem to be this very distinct divide between individualism right now and doing something beneficial for the community. And I've been experiencing this in a lot of conversations, especially with family, because I've been having many political debates with family about like the pandemic and wearing a mask, so on and so forth. And like a lot of people will say like it's my right to not wear a mask. Like it is one of my civil liberties to not wear a mask. And I pose the question of like, I mean, yeah, we still have some civil liberties, but what complexity does that take when you are expected to do it for the betterment of other people around you?
Mhm.
And it what frustrates me is that a lot of people who say this usually are the first people who would say that they are the type that would give the shirt off their back to other people. They are the type that, cares for their neighbor. Well, if you really care for your neighbor and if you're willing to do something like that, why not wear a mask?
Right. It's such an easy thing to do.
I mean, it's not like, yeah, it's not comfortable sometimes.
I
No.
I think that I saw a post on Facebook before I got off, from my friend Kitty, who said that in order to get people to wear masks, we kind of have to treat them in the same way that we treat condoms, and that we first have to not shame people for wearing them. That we have to make them free to cost and pass them out, and give people to carry them around at all times, and to have people encourage their usage,
Mhm.
like celebrities and athletes and politicians and everyone just encourage their usage at all times, and to have them free to cost.
Yeah, it normalizes it. Yeah, and it makes it
Mhm.
seem more, quote, unquote, "socially acceptable." I've noticed that the president has started wearing a mask every now and then too, which would have
It's
been
only going to
nice.
get worse.
Oh, yeah, it
They
it would have been nice if that were to have happened a long time ago when, this started, but yeah, like, I do think it's going to get worse if people don't start.
Well, the CDC said that fall and winter are going to be more, it's gonna get the cases are only gonna get worse as fall and winter goes on. So it's gonna be as it progresses, it's only gonna get worse this winter, that we're looking at a very hard winter ahead of us. So, we're gonna kind of have to buckle down, and that we're looking at hard cases this winter, and that
Mhm.
it's gonna be a hard time, and
Right.
that you have to prepare yourself now for a winter ahead.
What's really unfortunate is that if people I mean, if people were taking this more seriously, especially those who just think that COVID-19 is a hoax, and they would follow the guidelines and wear a mask and social distance themselves, we'd be in a much better place right now. Like, I mean, if we look at the
We would be more
statistics.
like we would be more like Europe, or the rest of the world that seems to be, like, at least going down a little bit, and that
Mhm.
they're at least getting it more under control. But even I mean, it's still a pandemic, like, it's still everybody's still up, like, there are still cases, but, like, yeah, we're still the only nation out of the rest of the world that has the most cases now, and we're the most industrialized, where we have the most. I mean, it's in, South America, there are a lot of cases right now, and it's out of control in South America, but, you know, uh, they're only
Brazil,
starting.
especially.
Right, and in Peru, it was so bad that, a woman ran at the motorcade of the president because she was so angry about the policies taking place, so
Hmm. Didn't the leader of Brazil test positive for COVID-19, if memory serves me correctly?
I don't remember,
I
no,
think I read that somewhere. But, like, if we look at countries like New Zealand, like, I just, read an article where New Zealand has completely eliminated, like, uh, the case increases entirely in their country. So, I mean, yeah, I get that their country is way smaller than ours, but I also believe that their leadership took it seriously from the beginning, and they were doing what they could to effectively manage the situation, whereas other places have just adapted this philosophy of if we don't pretend it's there, then it's going to go away, and that's not going to happen. And I feel like our leadership has definitely been using that perspective, right? And I know they would argue, well, we were just saying that to not cause like hysteria or fear, but I'd rather experience a little bit of fear and be cautious than potentially have an entire community get infected by something or have them get sick. And I don't know, our country really prides itself on doing the right thing and being there for other people. I think now is as important time as ever to do that.
Mhm,
Like, we need to be there for our communities and mask up and practice social distancing until this is resolved in some way or becomes a little bit better. Because the truth is, it's not going away anytime soon.
right.
So, were there any other myths or did we want to move forward?
I think we wanna move forward. I'm just
Okay.
concerned about the future, about what this is gonna look like in the end. Because like, things that, like, I've been seeing are, like, um I've been reading posts from like the Washington Post about the coronavirus orphans and about kids who are losing both parents and their you know children and teenagers who are now losing both parents to the virus, and it's becoming a thing. Um, and I don't think it's a small number of people who are doing this. So, um, you know, the rise of the quarantines, and when they become young adults, when they go out into the world, I wonder, who are they going to become after having suffered early on in life? Like, what are they going to be like socialized? What are their experiences going to be like, having been through all of this as their earliest memories?
Exactly. Yeah. That's an excellent point. But people largely don't consider that, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm really concerned about, like, what's it going to be like for them in 10, 15. Like, it was bad for us because, like, we went through, like, our September 11th, and, like, we went through the housing crash, and we went through Iraq and Iran, and we went through, Afghanistan, and we went through, a lot of stuff, but, like, they're starting out with this.
Right. We never had to grow up with a pandemic of this nature.
Right, and I'm really concerned about the little kids. I'm just like, "Man, like, it's rough for 'em." I feel
Yeah.
really bad. Like, like, these kids that are orphaned that, like, what's it gonna be like?
Well,
I
and,
I
like, it
I don't
like,
know.
I, like
My heart goes out to 'em, like, I don't know.
mhm. Same here. Same here. Like, I also get I mean, looking at how things are going to change drastically from here on out, like, not only for kids, but, I mean, if we look at, like, different infrastructures in our country, for example, like, I mean, we were just talking about education a while ago, like, if we're gonna be dealing with this pandemic for a while until it eventually dies down, like, education is going to be really suffering, it's gonna shift, it's going to look way different. Um, People are going to be exposed to different types of education. There are some people who are opting to skip education until it's over. Like, I know I've seen so many college students say, "Well, we're skipping a year, we're waiting a year," you know? What if that turns into longer?
Several years, 5 years,
Right,
maybe.
yeah, and
Even said
additionally
especially with societal issues long term, compounding social societal issues, like
mhm,
police brutality, I mean, with defunding the police, with, with I mean, what is that gonna look like with, you know I mean,
yeah,
how is that gonna
exactly.
affect kids?
Precisely. Like, I was having a conversation with a dear friend today, and we were talking about like, 'cause, like, I mean, if we look at how all of this is being handled, the pandemic, the current social issues, what future are we creating for kids, right? Like, are we considering that we're creating a place where they aren't going to be able to flourish or feel safe or experience a lot of the things that we were able to experience, right? So, like, to me, if there's any motivating factor for doing what you're supposed to do and masking up and social distancing and trying to, educate yourself on the issues, that should be the another motivating factor amongst the numerous ones that we've been discussing, right?
Well, just even the simple fact of, like, sports,
Or
sports
music.
or, like, art or, like, anything, like, it's not there like it right now, and I'm so concerned that, like, we're just, like, falling into a rut of, like, we can't do these things because, like, we're in a pandemic and, like, it's not there, but, like, we kinda have to do it because it's necessary for them, like,
Right.
they
I
have
mean,
to kind of be able
it's
to experience those things.
right. Like, and not to mention if we want to be able to experience those things again ourselves,
Right, because
I
if
would love to go to concerts again. I would love to go to plays. I would love to do a variety of different things.
I think that we have to kinda accept that, like, this is gonna be a long-term thing and that we're gonna be without I mean, I feel like it's gonna be at least another 2 years and that we have to kind of accept that, like, this is that we're in for the long haul.
Well, and even like in a best case scenario, even if it isn't 2 years and things level out and decrease over the next several months, the economic fallout is going to be much longer. Like, many of these states who like, I mean, obviously, like, paying in unemployment, so on and so forth, and having to do alternative things, cutting programs, like, they're gonna be paying, like, sizable debts for a long time in lieu of this event, federally as well, when you think about it too. So, if we want it to end sooner, why not take it more seriously? So the people who think this is a hoax, like, do you think that every state is carefully crafting, like, their reaction to this and doing shutdowns, so on and so forth, just for fun? Like, I don't think it's just for fun. because the economic turmoil affects everyone, especially groups of people who are more prone. So, but I mean, if we look at it right now, like other states are scaling back their reopenings. Like California, for example, just scaled back their reopening um, due to like obviously their drastic increase. I can't remember off the top of my head if Florida is or not. If memory serves me correctly, I think Florida at least like did they ban like indoor bar service? I can't remember. I
I
know
think Florida did, yeah.
Yeah, like I know some states are like closing beaches because beaches have been a huge hot spot. I mean,
Oh,
if you
can we talk for a minute about the Corona parties?
take it away, oh my gosh, this enrages me.
Why are young people, which is the growing number of people who are becoming infected, having parties where they come together and have money involved about who gets infected first? Why is this a thing? I think this is the most disgusting. It's so disgusting, and it is disrespectful to the dead, and it's so dangerous. And like young people, like I hate to say it, but it's like Gen Z, and it's like they're just like, yeah, let's have a Corona party. Let's see who can get infected first.
hmm
And it's like whoever wins gets money, and it's like you're gonna die.
Right, like what like well, and the thing is it all comes down to who they're surrounding themselves with. Those people are surrounding themselves with parents, friends, other family members who literally probably tell them, this is a hoax, this isn't real, people are overhyping it, and then bam, look what happens.
David Sperling says they think they're immune, they're young, impulsive, products of a society that has enforced callous, egotistical, self obsessed society with no soul. Yeah, they think they're immune. They think they're
Yeah.
immune. And
Now,
it bothers me.
mind you, like I don't think there's any problem with individualism building off from David's point, but the truth is like there has to be some sort of apex where we get to a point and we think, okay, yes, our individualism is important, but is it important at the expense of the people around us? Right? So like and it makes me sad that people who are doing these parties they're going to get infected or they're going to infect people in their lives. Like how are they going to feel after that happens? It's sad that it should have to get to that point, right? Like I would never wish anything on anyone, but unfortunately for some of these people that's the only catalyst that gets them to see the fact that it is existing, that it is in fact a thing. I don't know why, but my lips are like insanely chapped this evening. Random digression, I apologize.
I just, I'm just really disappointed. I'm just disappointed about how people are acting lately. And I just,
Like I feel like we both acknowledge that people are capable of doing the right thing and they're capable of educating themselves well enough to know what the right thing actually constitutes. And there have been so many opportunities for people to do the right thing. They are just choosing not to do it because a politician tells them to, or their family associations tell them not to, or they think it's the cool, or dare I say it, patriotic thing to do. I'm
I
all
just,
about patriotism, but at the end of the day, what's more patriotic? Being self absorbed and doing whatever you want at the expense of other people, or actually caring about the people in your community and joining in solidarity with them in order to ensure that everyone is safe.
I just wish people would wake up and realize, like, what you do affects the lives of others, and, like, what you do, like, has a real effect on your fellow man, and that this is real, and that this is happening, and that this is gonna continue to happen for the next several months at least, into the next several years maybe, and that this is not going away, and that a lot of people have died already, a lot of people are infected, and that you have to take steps in order to really do something to prevent yourself getting sick, which it's I mean, if you care about yourself at all, you want to not get sick. If you care about your family, you want to take steps for them. Um, if you care about your community, you'll take steps for them.
Hmm. You know,
Like, and
it's
I think that, like, in the last several years, last couple decades, in fact, I think that there just has been a degradation of community, family, and self,
and
and that we just
education. Like
and no, sorry.
going no, no, it's okay. I was just gonna add to that, like I label this the death of professional credibility because right now, I mean, we know that education has been in dire straits, but like when, Betsy DeVos was promoted as Secretary of Education, like she has a very distinct history of wanting to industrialize education in the sense that it becomes like mostly just a business, right? And right now, building off from that, people are being taught to ignore or discredit those who have gone through an educational process to partake in a career like medical practitioners, uh, people studying in various fields, professors, so on and so forth. They're not being believed right now because they're being taught that being educated is like this radical liberal agenda that is trying to destroy the fundamentals of the roots of our country, and that couldn't be farther from the truth. Like, I think that's why a lot of people aren't taking this seriously because, I mean, it all comes back down to what they're being taught by the people around them, unfortunately. I could go on for, like, 10 live streams about that topic. And as much as I don't like I always say that, like, hate is a learned experience, but I also believe that empathy is a learned experience too. Like, how are we going to do what we need to do to make this better if we don't teach that empathy? And I think there are a lot of people that have that responsibility: parents, other family members, politicians, public figures. We all have this responsibility to teach people to actually care about the well being of the people around them.
Igny says they think the weak are destined to die, and I think that's true, but the problem is that everybody's weak once in a while, and that, you know,
Hmm.
everybody has their weak moments, and
And people's
that's
definitions of weak are so diverse too.
I just I think that at some point, like, everybody gets sick, and, like, it could be you could be the strongest person, you could be this really buff person who works out every day and have a really good muscle mass and have protein shakes and do the perfect thing, and you could still die of coronavirus.
Right. Exactly. Like Igni also said that people misunderstand too that survival of the fittest doesn't mean those who survive pandemics. It means those who reproduce the most, which survive. It's about reproduction, and I think people mix that up a lot too, right? Um, because they think that testing testing the world and going out and risking themselves is some sort of rite of passage. I've seen people say that as well, where they think like, "Oh, well, I need to build immunity to this, so I'm gonna go out into it." Interesting. And then Igny also says that weak to them equals non-white and non-American.
It's true.
It is very true.
A
And
non-Christian.
yep, Taylor said non-Christian as well. It's very true. It's all about power, really. At the end of the day, it's always all about power. That's what's unsettling.
Congratulations on your thunderstorm.
I
It's the
wish
best.
we'd have a thunderstorm. We were supposed to get one the other day, and it was just like a little fizzle of thunder. But so, but yeah, like honestly, I mean, I feel like we could talk a little bit longer about this topic. Um, were there any
Do you want to
specific?
hear something really depressing?
Of course.
Tomorrow is supposed to be the start of the 2020 Olympics in Tokyo.
Oh, yes. I
Isn't
forgot
that
about that.
isn't that sad?
It's like I always think about like how different the world would be right now had this not been happening, right?
I got a little sad. I was like,
I am not a sporty person by any means, but that makes me sad too.
well, because I watched the Olympics. Like the Olympics are like fun to watch. Like I'm not a sporty person either, but I watch the Olympics. I watch the Winter Olympics. I watch the Summer Olympics because they're fun.
I don't watch them, but I do monitor like the successes and stuff like that.
I watch the Olympics. I love them. I love that I like watching gymnastics and I like watching the weightlifting competitions. I like watching swimming. I like watching the dive competitions.
Didn't
I love watching all of the fun stuff. It's fun.
didn't I hear that that was rescheduled? I
It
think
is rescheduled for next year.
okay, hopefully it'll happen next year because I know in Tokyo they've been like preparing for it for a long time. It is really sad.
And he says I hear Godzilla crying in the distance.
Yes. Oh my goodness. So let's make things a little bit more personal for our last few minutes. Because on an individual basis, we're all handling the pandemic differently, right? And I think it's important for everyone to like do mental health checks on one another to make sure that everyone's doing okay because these are very unprecedented, stressful times, right? So let's talk a little bit about how we are coping with the pandemic. How would you say that you're currently coping with it, Ari?
Well, I'm doing pretty good as far as the pandemic's concerned. Um, as far as what I'm doing, I've lost some weight. I'm down 10 pounds since the beginning of the pandemic. I've been maintaining my weight. I exercise 5 days a week usually. Actually, today was the first day I actually went for a run. Like I actually ran about a mile, which
Congratulations.
I know, uh, it was rough because I'm 250 pounds, so it's very difficult. I ran it within about 10, 15 minutes, but I did pretty good. Uh, yeah, so I was very proud of myself. Um, but yeah, I I just exercise. I try to cook at home. I'm monitoring my eating. I'm making art. I write almost every day. Uh, I feel like since the beginning of the pandemic, I've flourished a little bit. Like before the pandemic, I was in a kind of a funk, a little bit of a depression. Like I was just kind of unfocused and I wasn't quite wasn't quite myself.
Hmm.
Like I was just like kind of searching for myself again. And but after the pandemic started, I started making videos like remember I started making videos every day? And then I was making videos probably like I make them a few times a week now because I'm not doing the what I eat every day videos anymore. But I do I'm pretty regular about my videos, so
Well, I can very much relate to that. I'm an introverted person, and in many ways, the like social distancing has helped me a little bit. It's kind of helped give me like a much needed respite, one could say. Um, I've been like honestly, like the lull and the hustle and bustle of things has allowed me to be more creative. I finished a manuscript of poetry I've been working on for like 5 years. A couple days ago, I never would have had that opportunity before, nor the motivation. I have the time to have get. I had the time, and then empowered by that motivation to start therapy. I've also lost weight, been working out lately, been spending a lot of time outside. Like, I feel like I've been able to just enjoy, enjoy the world, enjoy creativity much more. And of course, enjoying getting to do this with you too.
mhm.
This is a creative outlet, definitely.
Taylor's flourished too, she said.
Woohoo! That makes me happy. Well, um, I mean, looking at the other questions I had, I think we've pretty much touched on most of those. So, do you have any parting words for us, Ari, my friend?
I If you're a young person, you're one of the highest growing number of people potentially to get coronavirus lately. This is what Dr. Fauci has said lately. So be careful, wear a mask, social distance if you go out. Um, if you think you have coronavirus, if you even suspect you have coronavirus, get tested. Oh, Igni, what's your question?
And while Igny's typing that question, I'm going to also say that there is no shame in caring about people around you. That doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you inferior in any way. I think it is the proper thing to do. It demonstrates your empathy in doing so.
Oh, it's actually pretty cold in my apartment. My sister put the air conditioning on, so I'm actually kind of cold. It's got my cat on it.
Oh my God,
Corona
it's so
cat.
cute. How is your cat?
My cat's great. I'm
All right,
actually really cold today, so
I've been kind of chilly myself today too. All right, my friends. Well, as always, thank you for tuning in with us. Go subscribe to Ari's channel, Strange Nothings, if you haven't done so yet. Like this video, of course. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. Tomorrow, I'm going to be doing a live stream with a friend named Zimzilla99. We're going to be talking about Godzilla stuff. So that's going to be fun. So tune in for that. And see you next week. Have a wonderful rest of your night, my friends. Bye.
bye.